Hi everybody, my name is Hannah and welcome to Heartbound Tarot and Astrology. Today we're going to be talking about the Scorpio Full Moon. It is occurring on May 12th, 2025. And we're going to talk about the energy and what to expect. So to dive right into it, we got to talk about what is Scorpio. And the definition I'm using is from the Association of Vibrational Astrologers, and this is a different sect of astrology. What I really like about their definitions is they get to the heart of what the sign really means. They get to the essence of it because they believe that the signs aren't archetypes, they're actually these creative, energetic essences that show up and show a different kind of perspective in life. They're naturally creative forces. And we typically hear symptoms ascribed to the signs like Aries can get so mad, Aries are all individualistic, or Scorpios can be really secretive or mean. And these kind of descriptions don't really get to the heart of what the sign is, and that's why astrology can get a bad rap, is because we start to clump all these associations, and unfortunately a lot of negative associations, with the signs. But this really takes away from the purpose of astrology and really what it provides to us. So here, Scorpio at its essence and as a kind of filter and perspective on life is the ability to fuse, to merge with and become totally absorbed in your experiences and activities. And the mode and element is fixed water sign. And so this idea of the ability to fuse and to merge is at the heart of Scorpio. So Scorpio naturally wants to become totally immersed, become one with anything that it's doing. And that's why it can get this reputation for being intense, and everything else that can come with that. Here's a couple more things. The individual discovers themselves in this fusion, which brings a sense of expansion of individualism. They can go through transformations because it changes them when they are immersed in something. So this is really powerful. What it's saying is that actually by being connected and fused with something else, this deepens one's sense of individuality. It actually helps to create a greater sense of self-knowing by being merged with something else. And so there's actually this idea of transformation that comes through by deeply engaging and immersing in something. This process of getting deeply absorbed inclines them to dig deeper and to feel more deeply than others do. Cool. So this is going to be our lens when we look at this full moon. So because this is a full moon, this is actually a maturation or a culmination of the new moon, the Scorpio new moon. And that occurred on November 1st, 2024. And so when a full moon comes, it's actually really great to reflect on what was happening at this sign's new moon. So that was actually 6 months ago. And so you can imagine from then, November 1st, to 6 months later now, to May 12th, the time of the full moon, things probably have changed. And so it's valuable to reflect on what was going on for you then. Was there anything that was starting to develop? Was there anything that you were looking forward to at that time? And I even have the chart pulled up right here just so we can kind of reference some of the energy. So first thing to note is that, I wonder if you can see my cursor on here. If you can see it, that's great. If you can't, unfortunately. Hopefully you can tell what glyphs are what. What we can see here at the time of the chart being pulled is that the sun and the moon were in the first house. And so new moons are so great for setting intention and planting seeds because what do we have? We have the moon and the sun right on top of each other. And what is that? That's masculine and feminine. The essential ingredients for creation, they are right on top of each other, and so they are ripe to create something new. So if we look at this chart, I don't have the details up, but what I can tell is that the sun and moon are trining Saturn, and Saturn is in the 5th house in Pisces. And so what this means is that there was a kind of natural free-flowing energy to get really clear and really get to the essence of what was important to you in the passions, hobbies that you partook in, because it was helping to inform you about your self-identity in some way. And that can also include romance or any kind of relationships that have a romantic nature. Like, was there anything happening at that time that was either a hobby, something you're passionate about, something you're excited about, a relationship, a romantic relationship that you were excited about, that by engaging with that, it taught you something deep about yourself, or it helped you to see something that you really valued at its essence from those activities that help to maybe give you an idea of what you want to set in motion for how you develop in your self-identity or self-expression. And then there's also a square, kind of a minor square to Pluto occurring in the 4th house. And so another thing to reflect on were there any feelings of a drive to develop something in your inner emotional world that you felt like needed some kind of updating, or maybe there was something in your inner emotional world. It's actually in Capricorn here. So is there anything that you were witnessing within yourself, whether in your home, in your inner world, that you were noticing was kind of coming up a lot in terms of themes of maybe how you wanted to change or reassess things, or was kind of just of the top of your mind, almost impulsive, or not impulsive, obsessive, to focus on that? By focusing on those areas, you felt like it would develop something in your self-image. And then there's like some major aspects here with Mercury trining both Mars and also trining Neptune. And so in the house of money. So were you getting any kind of ideas? Were you feeling motivated to act on any ideas that would help you with your career or help you with making money, that you were just kind of deeply absorbed in and feeling ready to act on? And were you actually kind of engaged with any dreams about making money? So there's actually a lot of energy here about actualizing your dreams or getting information on your dreams in a very practical way, but maybe you got that inspiration for it from different places, from maybe like seemingly unrelated places, giving you ideas on how you could make money or how you could grow professionally. And then finally there's this opposition with Mars and Pluto, and this is actually occurring at the time of the full moon. There is that dynamic is actually happening again. So this is an interesting mirroring, and it can be a kind of intense energy between Mars and Pluto where there's a kind of obsession to get something done. And with an opposition here, it just represents either a place to share or conflict. And so again, it's kind of like, did you feel any energy to work on something in your inner world, but also feel very determined to work on something on your outer world, but feeling maybe you couldn't do both, or there was some kind of balancing act you had to do between both that was maybe something you were also working through that was coming back into your self-identity. So anyways, that's just like a brief overview of possible things that could have been happening for you at the time of the new moon, November 1st. And so we're going to look at the full moon and see, how did that energy progress? How did it develop? Okay, and so when we're looking at the full moon here, the sun is going to show us how our focus has progressed, because the sun is all about consciousness and our actual attention. And the moon will show us what we've learned, because moon is all about memory, habits, and cycles. And so that's where we get this sense of reflecting and looking back and being able to glean insights. Okay, so now we're actually at the time of talking about the full moon. So like I said, the full moon is a time to reflect on the seeds that were planted from the last Scorpio new moon. And so really it's a time to say, what has become illuminated or blossomed since then? And it can be useful to see it as a time of maybe shedding something or seeing it as a transition point. Some astrologers view full moons like that, but it also can be, I think, a really great time to just revel in, did you accomplish something, or did you move the needle in your life to that area where you set intention for the new moon? Alright, so let's start by looking at the sun aspects. And the sun here is actually in the 11th house, and now it's in Taurus. And so what we can see is that it's opposing the moon. That's how we get a full moon, and that's how we see it illuminated in the sky. The sun has to be opposing it in order to illuminate it. And we also see the sun conjuncting Uranus. And finally, we also see it sextiling the North Node. So, the sun being in Taurus is all about a gradual, natural unfolding that's occurring in 11th house topics of life. And so 11th house topics of life can be about attitudes and friendships, the types of friends we attract, the roles we play in a group, people that we connect to in order to accomplish our dreams. And so with Sun conjunct Uranus, we might be feeling at the time of this full moon wanting to be spontaneous, wanting to produce laughter, wanting to kind of enjoy ourselves in the groups that we're a part of, the friendships that we're a part of, and kind of feel maybe in the limelight with that. We also want to respond to the flow and maybe even be, like I said, the life of the party in our groups. So we might also get unexpected surprises or rewards from the work that we do. So at the time of the full moon, this might be the culmination or blossoming of some kind of work that you've been doing in the last 6 months where you actually get a reward. It might be unexpected, or it might be a reward that you weren't anticipating, or it might come in an unusual way, but it feels natural and actually feels like it's occurring on its own timing, and it has a kind of rhythm that feels like a natural unfolding. We also might encounter people at this time, people who can help us achieve our dreams, or people who are giving us insight, who may be eccentric, jovial, or energetic, and they may come from an unexpected place, but it all feels natural, and it feels like an unfolding that was meant to happen. So let's talk about the sun sextiling the North Node, and that is occurring, the North Node is in the 9th house here in Pisces. And so the North Node is all about the area in our life in which we go in order to have a positive impact, to feel a sense of fulfillment. And the North Node is also new territory. It's where we're meant to grow. It's where we're meant to expand. And it can be very filling to grow in those areas. So the North Node is always a really good indicator of where you're progressing, and the progress you can do there can give you a great sense of fulfillment. And so, again, the sun is all about our focus. These are things that we're actually focused on at the time of the full moon. So we're focused on rewards from our work. We're focused on relationships, and also the roles that we play in our groups, the way that we meet people who can help us get to the places we want to go. And with it sextiling the North Node in the 9th house, we're probably encountering people who have given us some kind of spiritual wisdom to help us expand, because the 9th house is all about, it's about wisdom gained through experience, it's teachers, gurus, it's spiritual groups. And it gets the connotation of travel because of this idea of expanding through wisdom. it also can show us a bigger perspective on life, and it also can give us alternative belief systems or inform our belief systems, maybe into new directions. And so here, with that sextile with the North Node, there's been a supportive energy of teachers or spiritual groups, or even coming into new perspectives that are now rewarding you, and they're rewarding you in this way that has a natural unfolding. And it's even given you insight into kind of the positive impact that you want to have in order to have a sense of fulfillment. And so the question here is, have you done some kind of work where you've been working with a teacher or maybe a spiritual teacher, or have you been doing the work where you've actually been learning new things by having experience, and by doing all of that stuff or engaging with those people, has it actually rewarded you? Do you feel like you've gained something that feels like it's unfolded in a natural way? And also, with it being in Pisces, maybe that information came to you in a way in which it was from seemingly unrelated sources, but it's kind of all coming together in rewarding you in this way. So this is where our focus is on right now at the time of the Scorpio full moon. Oh, and then there's one more thing that I want to note. With the sextiling of the North Node, actually not the sextiling, with the North Node in general, there is a square to Jupiter and Gemini in the 12th house. And so another kind of angle of maybe what the North Node is showing us, or things that we're learning, has to do with, like, have you had any kind of motivation to grow with certain energetic principles, whether it's like the idea of energy at large, or have you been curious about like higher energies, or having the desire to go to a retreat or go on a trip in order to recharge? Has there been any kind of desire to find yourself or reset in order to kind of grow and develop yourself? If not that, then to maybe work with different energetic principles in order to kind of help with you finding your direction, or help with the positive impact that you want to have. Okay, let's look at the moon side of things. So again, the sun is about our actual attention and focus, and the moon is going to show us what have we learned in these past 6 months. And so again, it reflects what's coming out of the 11th house, and the moon here is in the 5th house of passion, hobbies, romance, children, our connection to children, playfulness. And the moon is actually having a couple more aspects than the sun was. So here, what I think is really interesting is that for the new moon, it was in the 1st house, and now at the time of this full moon, it's actually in the 5th house. And as you may recall, for the new moon, Saturn was in the 5th house. And so for the new moon, you were getting some kind of clarity about something that you wanted to really get to the essence of in your areas of hobbies, that you felt like by kind of merging with them, it would improve your self-identity, or by merging with that work and getting to the essence of what that was, you would be kind of on this right path, or that was important to your sense of fulfillment. And so what I think is interesting is that the moon has actually moved into the 5th house. And so what it's showing me right now Let's just talk about the energy. It is in Scorpio. I do want to talk about that. But first of all, it's trining Saturn. And Saturn is also in the 9th house of spirituality, spiritual groups, teachers, wisdom gained through experience. And so there's a free-flowing energy to be sincere and introverted. And you actually might find yourself having a need for isolation to quiet your emotions in order to perceive deep, essential, long-lasting truths in regards to your hobbies and your passions, maybe even your romances. And that is actually very enjoyable for you. By doing that, it feels very satisfying. And here's where the Scorpio comes in, is you actually really want to merge or fuse with that truth, getting to the essence of what matters to you, in what emotional state matters to you in regards to your hobbies, and also you're feeling a free-flowing energy that you've gotten from these kind of higher wisdom places, and you're putting it into your hobbies and your passions, and you're actually seeing that they really inform how you show up when you play. And it's satisfying to be sincere and almost to be simple with it. It's not about all this stuff. It's actually getting to the heart of what is really enjoyable at its core about this passion or hobby I have. The moon is also opposing Uranus. Actually, I want to talk about the trining first. So the moon is trining Neptune, and it's also trining the North Node. They're both also... Actually, no. The North Node is in the 9th house, and it's also in Pisces with Saturn. And there, we're finding that we have moods or habits around the positive impact that we want to do in order to have a sense of fulfillment. So this really pairs nicely with Saturn being there, is that we actually really care about that our hobbies and our passions give us this sense of fulfillment, and maybe even spiritual wisdom, or that our spiritual wisdom is really influencing how we show up in our hobbies or our passion, and that by having that kind of spiritual practice, it gives us direction for how we show up in our hobbies. And with that trine of Neptune is in Aries, and in this chart it's in the 10th house. It's also representing free-flowing energy to... Oh no, it's in the 9th house. It's also representing a free-flowing energy to engage with our dreams, but it also might represent emotional sensitivity, being sensitive to the atmosphere or the mood at this time. And right now with Neptune being in Aries, part of what we are now dreaming about is authenticity, is about showing up for who we are and being able to express our authentic truths and not have to hide it or obscure it, but also it's really valuable for us to live in a kind of authentic world. And so the moon trining that, there's just yet again a free-flowing energy. In our spiritual wisdom, we're finding that dream of expressing authenticity is really important for how we enjoy our hobbies, our passions, and our romances. And so this is what Moon has learned in the 6 months, is that for the way that it shows up, for the way that we show up in our passions, hobbies, and romances, maybe even with our children and the way that we play, is that we're doing it from a place of authenticity, we're doing it from a place of sincerity, and also that the way that we show up is influenced and based on our spiritual learning, our spiritual truths that our focus has also been on, and we're finding that it's actually rewarding us in unexpected ways, but that are naturally unfolding. And with Scorpio, with the moon being in Scorpio, we feel at this time, the ways in which we've merged with our hobbies, our interests, our loved ones, and really enjoy how that changes us by fusing with all those values informed by Neptune, Saturn, and the North Node. Now, the last thing I'm going to talk about on this slide is that opposition with Uranus. And so the opposition with Uranus here is, what it shows us is that we have, as much as we're being informed by these spiritual truths and that we care about authenticity, it's also really important for us at this time to feel free and unrestricted by expectations and consequences. And so even though maybe there is a kind of openness to higher learning and the input of others and maybe unexpected surprises or gifts, there also is this opposition or this need to be free of expectations and to really be able to fully merge with what you're passionate about, and to not let other people or to let anything else put any expectations on you on how that looks or how you should show up, because you're fully immersed in whatever your activity is and you want to enjoy it in that way. That's that Scorpio essence. That's why it's really enjoying being there and enjoying soaking up whatever hobby or passion it is that you're invested in at this time. And so maybe the learning that you've gained at this time is that you don't want to do it with expectations, or if there are expectations that are being put on you at this time, they're not useful, and that could be a source of conflict if there are people who are pushing you, or it could be a source of conflict internally and make you more moody or sensitive to that if you feel like you are doing things out of obligation for other people's expectations, when you really just want to be fully immersed in what you're passionate about. So that's another thing that probably we're learning at this full moon. Okay, and the last thing I want to look at, because they are prominent aspects here, but they're not connected directly to the sun or moon, is basically Pluto. And Pluto is having this square with Mercury, and so at the time of this full moon, you might be noticing within yourself, other people, or actually even maybe in your workplace or in your relationships, there being like a lot of opinions, and maybe you feel opinionated, but there also can be a kind of fervor of connecting ideas obsessively or compulsively, and being really excited about the new ideas that are coming to you. So there's actually a kind of, maybe a motivation that is happening where maybe you're getting a lot of ideas that are naturally unfolding, and it's exciting, and maybe it's related to the work that you want to do in the world or the way that you want to present yourself. And so that's another thing that the full moon might be exposing, or something you might be noticing at this time, is either there's a lot of opinions around you, or you yourself might notice that you're having a lot of ideas come into yourself, into your awareness, and maybe you're connecting a lot of ideas that are coming from your one-on-one direct relationships, or any kind of media you're consuming where maybe there's one creator and you're listening to them, and the ideas that you're getting are informing something that you want to present in the world. And then the last aspect I want to talk about is Uranus trining Pluto, and this is the need for freedom, and it's a compulsive need to be operating in the moment. And so that might also be a motivating force at this time, in which you find yourself feeling really compelled to have freedom and to do what is really interesting to you. So, those are just stronger aspects, and I wanted to note those as part of the vibe as well. So overall, with this full moon, it's actually more about realizing the ways in which you've developed a lot in your passions and your hobbies, and that you're diving into them really deeply. And the way that you're showing up in them is being informed by your spiritual practice, and maybe you seeing or being focused on higher truths that seem to either give you skills or knowledge that actually really help inform you how you want to show up and how you want to have a positive impact. And it really does give you a sense of fulfillment when you're operating in your passions and your hobbies from that place. And again, you might also notice that there's like unexpected rewards that either come from work or any of the kind of work you're doing. It doesn't just have to be your day job. It could also be any side projects that you're doing. You might find unexpected rewards or unexpected people who come into your life and teach you something really valuable. But at the same time, it's really important that you're not trapped by anyone's expectations of you, and that you're able to truly just naturally let things unfold, and to be able to go deeply, so that way you can have the kind of transformation that you're finding is really fulfilling in your passions and your hobbies, and also this kind of work that you're getting a lot of ideas. A lot of ideas are coming to you. It's naturally exciting, and you might feel really compelled to act on them and connect all these ideas, as well as noticing your need to have freedom through all of this. So if you enjoyed this video, I would love it if you would like, comment, and subscribe. These videos are a labor of love, and I love seeing people engage with these videos. When you like, comment, subscribe, it tells me that you enjoyed it and you would like more. So as always, I'm wishing you well, and I'll see you for the next one.